Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, the Senate returns the articles of impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte to the House of Representatives. The development fans more political uncertainty, says Aris Arugay, chair of the Political Science Department of the University of the Philippines. He joins us in a few minutes. The current happenings at the Senate may cause doubts from a market standpoint, says PhilStock's Financial. We get the lowdown from research manager Japet Tantiangco. And as Trump's tariffs force investors to wait and see, the Philippines' foreign direct investment drops nearly 28% in March, the lowest in 3 months. The Senate has voted to return the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte to the House of Representatives. 18 senators voted in favor, while 5 opposed, after Senator Bato de la Rosa filed a motion to dismiss the impeachment complaint. Minority leaders Coco Pimentel and Risa Ontiveros opposed the motion, emphasizing that a trial would allow both sides to respond and to evidence to surface. However, De La Rosa responded, calling the court useless if it has no power to dismiss.
We have to respect the decision of the overwhelming majority of the members of the House of Representatives.
I too object to the motion of Senator Judge De La Rosa. A motion to dismiss is not found. Hindi Senator Judge ang magre-raise nun, kundi ang defendant. Si Vice President Sara Duterte ang dapat mag-raise niyan.
If this impeachment court has the power to dismiss an impeachment complaint, walang silbi itong korte na ito, Mr. President.
Some senators, including Grace Poe, expressed they wanted the impeachment proceedings to continue. Meanwhile, Senator Alan Peter Cayetana requested De La Rosa to amend his motion from dismissing to simply remand or return the articles of impeachment to the House. De La Rosa initially refused, but later on agreed. However, that was also opposed by the minority bloc.
Remanding is a functional dismissal. Return is a functional dismissal. Hindi po kailangang ibalik ang articles of impeachment sa House of Representatives.
Bakit dinadala kami sa dismissal, remand, return, whatever is the term, Mr. President? Hindi ko alam bakit kailangan tayo bakit ba tayo namimilipit na ipasok ang isang word that is a synonym or can mean dismissal.
In the end, when the matter was put to a vote, the majority prevailed. The articles of impeachment will be returned to the House. But Senate President Cheese Escudero said this does not mean the impeachment complaint is being dismissed or terminated. Meanwhile, at the House of Representatives, the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability has adopted the recommendation to file charges against VP Duterte for the alleged misuse of confidential funds. Charges include technical malversation, perjury, bribery, possible plunder, and betrayal of public trust. Our guest today says the latest development is disappointing, adding that the Senate failed to do its job generating more political uncertainty. With us now for more is Professor Aris Arugay, chairperson of the Department of Political Science at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Good to have you with us, Aris. I know you're in a faculty retreat. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me again, Cathy.
So you've watched everything late into the night. What do you make of the Senate's decision to return the articles of impeachment to the House of Representatives?
It seems it's clear that the Senate doesn't seem to be more forthcoming about performing its constitutional duty, which is to immediately constitute itself as an impeachment court and start the process.
Well, majority of the senators approved the motion to confirm the complaint did not violate the Constitution. Could the House's decision be, in a way, a violation of the Constitution?
Right. yes, Kathy, we're charting on we are on uncharted constitutional terrain here because according to legal experts and according to our constitution, the Senate and the House are co-equal branches. So for the Senate to issue basically a directive or a command to the House is something that is quite unprecedented. But what is also clear from what was witnessed last night is that some senator judges, because they're already senator judges, already seem to have displayed their inherent bias and not acting really supposed to be the neutral and impartial senator jurors that they're supposed to.
Well, to recall, the House impeached Duterte on February 5th, over 200 lawmakers endorsing that complaint, and on the same day, the articles of impeachment transmitted to the Senate, but that the upper chamber adjourned without addressing the case. Now, the second clause or tacit came along with it, with the return to the House of Representatives, Aris, is to verify that the next session of Congress was willing and ready to pursue the impeachment complaint. What do you make of it?
Right. The very interesting thing about it is that, therefore, the current Congress of the House of Representatives, which is the 19th Congress, which is still in session, may not be able to directly respond because the directive or the query, the question of the court is to the 20th Congress, which will not be constituted until the day of the State of the Nation address by President Marcos. That will be in July, not this month. So I think there's really this aim to further delay and therefore really call into question the impeachment, quote unquote, crossing over to the 20th Congress. So again, it seems like the Senate of the present Congress, the 19th Congress, has no interest in processing this impeachment trial of the Vice President.
Which leads us to the timings. What will this new development now mean to the timings at which the impeachment trial takes place and a verdict is delivered? Or would you consider this a stay of execution for VP Duterte?
Well, Cathy, this has been this impeachment, which has started already since late last year, has been lagging. And I think it is incumbent for our public officials, our elected officials, not to really further delay the process so that it will not cause more uncertainty. It will not, dampen confidence in the country, in the market, and really to think that the only way the nation could move forward, our democracy, is to put closure in this process and not to further delay it.
So you're saying the latest development generates more political market uncertainty. What then for the 12 incoming newly elected senators, including some of the re-electionists and independents? What is that going to mean for the final 3 years of the current presidency?
Yes, we'll have to figure out, but I do think the election results plus this impeachment trial will define how the senators, as well as other members of the legislature, will behave, because in any case that the vice president will be acquitted or somehow trial will not proceed and be dismissed, in power, I think, the vice president. And as her allies in the Senate already said, she's a possible and remains to be the strongest contender for 2028, and therefore that will be the effect of this impeachment process.
Thank you so much for your insights, Aris. Much appreciated. Aris Arugay, the chairperson of the Political Science Department of UP Diliman. You're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, the World Bank cuts its global growth outlook amid tariff uncertainties. And FDI net inflows fell to a 3-month low in March. Keep it here on One News. Back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. The World Bank has slashed its global growth outlook due to U.S. President Trump's trade policies. Global economies on track to grow by 2.3% this year, which would be the weakest since 2008, and will pick up modestly by about 2.5% in the next 2 years. The 2025 figure is down by nearly half of 1 percentage point since the last edition of the Global Economic Prospects Report came out in January. The World Bank, however, stopped short of forecasting a recession. The global lender predicts that if global tariff rates were cut in half, growth would be stronger by nearly 1/4 percentage point over the next 2 years. Meanwhile, the Philippines is projected to grow by 5.3% this year, 5.4% in 2026, and 5.5% in 2027. These figures are below the government's 6% target. U.S.-China trade talks will continue as needed. That is the pledge of U.S. officials as they describe talks between the two superpowers as productive. Negotiations are set to continue this Wednesday as delegates focus on supply chains and rare earths. Both camps are in London since Monday for talks stretching between 5 and 7 hours. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told reporters he would return to Washington for a prior commitment, but other officials are staying on until necessary.
We have had 2 days of the productive talks. They are ongoing. My colleagues, Secretary-elect and Ambassador Greer, are going to be continuing as needed with the Chinese delegation. So thank you very much.
Meantime, India and the U.S. are making progress in their latest round of closed-door talks. Both countries center on increasing bilateral agricultural, industrial, and digital trade. An interim agreement is expected to be signed by the end of June, while the full deal should come by fall of 2025. India is facing a 26% reciprocal tariff, currently on pause for 90 days since July. While Bloomberg reported this Tuesday that Mexico and the U.S. are close to getting rid of the 50% duties imposed on Mexican steel imports up to a certain volume. Under the deal, U.S. companies would be able to import Mexican steel tariff-free as long as shipments are kept below a level based on historical trade volumes. Optimism among investors over U.S.-China talks in London turned to modest gains in U.S. equities. The Dow rose this Tuesday by 0.25%. S&P 500 climbed by over 0.5%, and the Nasdaq jumped by 0.6%. U.S. 10-year Treasury yields slightly inched lower to 4.472%. Gold prices also notched down to $3,320 per troy ounce. U.S. futures slightly lower as the markets open later tonight Manila time. The Dow and the S&P are down 0.1% each, and the Nasdaq declines by 0.2%. As for Asian markets, they're rising this Wednesday as investors await details of the rare earths agreement between the U.S. and China. Australia's ASX 200 is up by over 0.33%. South Korea's Kospi climbs by 0.8%, and Japan's Nikkei gains by over 0.25%. While impeachment can be a source of political instability, one analyst predicts it hardly has an impact on Philippine equities. According to AP Securities research head Alfred Garcia, market movement won't likely be disrupted amid the drama surrounding the vice president's impeachment trial unless widespread protests erupt. And checking on the markets this Wednesday, the Philippine Stock Exchange opens higher by nearly 0.2% at 6,359, with the PSEI dropping yesterday Tuesday by 0.9%, with all sectoral indices closing lower. Meanwhile, the Philippine peso opens today slightly stronger at 55.80 to the dollar. The peso closed a tad weaker at 55.83 against the greenback. With us now for more is Japhet Tantiangco, Research Manager at PhilStocks Financial. Good to have you back on. Japhet, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Ma'am Cathy. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so how are you gauging market action and reaction at the get-go following the developments at the Senate and developments in the U.S.-China trade talks?
Well, the local market opened in the positive territory, and this can be attributed to the positive spillovers from the U.S. markets, caused by the consensus that the U.S. and China have reached in their talks in London. However, if you're going to notice, yes, the market is in positive territory or is in green, but it's fighting hard for those gains. And this could be because some way, somehow, the political uncertainties are weighing on the local market.
Fighting for those gains, as you mentioned, but this impeachment episode's been running for quite some time now. So why the investor concern?
Okay. With respect to the with respect to this impeachment episode, it somehow caused doubts, from an investor standpoint. I mean, three things. Number one, the impeachment episode has already been running for quite some time, and with the latest developments, seemingly it's going to be prolonged further. This puts the efficiency of the Congress into question. I mean, how fast can they move with respect to decision making? Number two, if you're going to look at the proceedings, somehow it's highlighting the political divisions, which in turn is of course a source of political uncertainty. And finally, of course, this has opportunity cost. I mean, Congress could be or should be looking into other things, such as creating policies that would be more significant to economic progress and development, but they are preoccupied by this one, so it produces opportunity costs, and all of these combined, it somehow causes doubts on the part of investors.
Okay, opportunity costs stand, so what policies then might be derailed because of what's going on?
Well, policies that would again be more significant towards economic progress, towards economic development, strengthening the industrial sector, structural changes that are needed by the economy, making a dent on poverty, as well as on the things that could help, like education and health. So those are the things, and of course, making the Philippines more investment friendly. So these are the things that could have been paid more attention to or more focus on, but currently we are preoccupied with the impeachment proceedings.
Talk to us about pricing risk at this stage, because there's a lot of moving parts there. What is the market pricing in now? The trial and verdict will happen. Is that what they're pricing in, that it may be further delayed or will just fade away?
Well, for now, I believe that the market is pricing in a delay, given the ongoings in the Congress, in particular with the Senate. But at the same time, of course, the market is also pricing in other factors. I mean, as mentioned a while ago, there's still the positive development offshore, which is the progress on U.S.-China trade talks. And so, of course, there are other factors out there, like the possible rate cut by the BSP. So these are things that investors are currently taking into consideration right now. Going back to the impeachment proceedings, if this gets protracted, and if it causes further division, then it's expected to cause more uncertainties, and that in turn is going to further weigh on the local market.
But then there is that Bangko Sentral rate decision coming up on June 19th. Could that be a positive
Yes.
event risk for the markets?
Well, with respect to the BSP, I believe ever since the inflation data came out, and it was good, so that 1.3%, it already triggered expectations that the BSP is going to cut policy rates in their upcoming meeting. And I believe this is already being priced in by investors. So moving forward, what investors will really be watching out for in the BSP's upcoming policy meeting, more than the rate cut itself, would be the BSP's policy direction. How much more rate cuts can they do for the local economy? Can they go more aggressive? If so, then that could, be a positive factor that could push the local market upward.
Okay, before we wrap, just a quick check. Still hanging on to those gains, or has it fallen into the negative in terms of the PSEI, Japheth?
Well, I mean, if you're going to look at the local market right now currently at up by 0.12%. So still hanging on to those gains.
All right, we'll check back at the end of trade today. Thank you so much for the context and analysis, Japheth Tantiangco of Wilsox Financial. Coming up, a former student opened fire at his high school in Austria, killing at least 10 people. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Net inflows of foreign direct investments fell to a 3-month low in March, with first quarter inflows also falling by over 40% year on year. That's amid heightened global uncertainty arising from U.S. tariff policies. Preliminary data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas showed FDI net inflows declining by nearly 28% to $498 million. This was the lowest FDI level in 3 months since the $110 million inflow posted in December 2024. Meanwhile, FDI net inflows in the first quarter also fell by 41% to nearly $2 billion from nearly $3 billion in the same period last year. The Philippine Information Technology and Business Process Management, or IT-PPM industry this year is expected to outpace global growth in terms of job generation and export revenues. That's according to the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines. IBPAP President and CEO Jonathan Madrid said the industry has grown by over 1.8 million last year and will hit 1.9 million by the end of 2025. This along with $40 billion in export revenues. Madrid said these numbers are the recalibrated targets for the year, but below the industry's aggressive targets under the IT-BPM Industry Roadmap 2028. In corporate news, Empire East Land Holdings Inc. has earmarked 25 billion pesos in capital expenditure over the next 5 years. The real estate developer says with this, alongside its 426-hectare land bank, they are well positioned to lead sustainable growth while offering high-value products in strategic locations. Empire East President and CEO Charlemagne Yu said the firm remains cautiously optimistic about its growth trajectory amid stable macroeconomic indicators. He also said Empire East is not affected by the ongoing condo oversupply. For the first quarter, the company posted nearly 8% of an increase in net income. Here are the headlines from around the globe. In Austria, a 21-year-old former student opened fire at his high school campus in the city of Graz, killing 10 people and himself. Police did not publicly identify the victims, though 7 of them were female and 3 male. The suspect carried a pistol and a longer gun that he used during the incident. He was found dead in the bathroom. Austrian Chancellor Christian Stocker already declared 3 days of national mourning. This is one of the worst European school shootings in years. In the U.S., Trump has defended his decision to send 700 Marines and 4,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles as protests mount over his immigration policies. He claimed the protests are a full-blown assault on peace, public order, and national sovereignty. Most demonstrations since the weekend have been peaceful, though there were scattered clashes between protesters and troops. A federal judge in California has already set a hearing on Thursday on the state's request to prohibit troops from performing law enforcement activities other than protecting federal property. And in the UK, Kate, the Princess of Wales, visited a new concepts museum containing thousands of collections. The V&A East Storehouse is designed to make storage museum and objects available for people to see. According to its deputy director, the 4-level building hosts 250,000 objects, 350,000 library books, and 1,000 archives from the V&A's collections. Probably take more than a week to see all of them. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. here on One News. We're also streamed live on YouTube and on our Facebook channels. Have a great day ahead.